Do the Oklahoma Sooners have a defense that can carry them?
You are Locked On Sooners, your daily podcast on the Oklahoma Sooners. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, Sooner Nation? Welcome to Locked On Sooners, and thank you for making Locked On Sooners your first listen every single day. Shout out to all the everydayers. Today's episode is brought to you by Ultimate GM. The Ultimate College Football HC is a brand new mobile game that is completely free, has no ads, and is 100% playable offline. Begin your coaching legacy today at Ultimate GM. I'm John Williams. He's Jay Smith. The Oklahoma offense has gotten a lot of headlines over the last few days after their performance against the Houston Cougars. We got to start talking about the defense because that defense looked really, really good. I know it's not to Brent Venables' standard and it's not to Danny Stutzman or Billy Bowman's standard, but man, it was so good for the Oklahoma Sooners on Saturday. And so it really had me kind of asking myself this question today. Can they be good enough to carry this team when you have an offense that's not very good?
Yeah, that's a very good question. And it goes back to what I've been saying since like the summer. We're going to have to lean on this defense. And I think that the defense can be, right? The good thing is that right now we're about middle of the pack on the defensive side in the SEC, averaging about 257 yards per game that we're giving up, right? It's ranked around number 10 in the SEC, but we've also played teams that actually have pulses, right? Most of the other competition besides Georgia and I say Tennessee, they've mainly played against like FCS schools, not a bunch of competition. We're going to see what they really look like over the next couple of games when they start playing teams that actually have offenses that are just competent in general. And so I'm curious to see how that turns out. But overall, John, when I look at this defense, when we talk about competitive depth, that's what we're talking about. Is this defense. The competitive depth is there. We've got players that can play 2 and almost 3 deep, especially at linebacker. So I'm actually, on defensive line, I think about it. Heck, if I'm going into it, I'm going to the edges too. I think the whole defense up into the secondary can really go down to the 3rd deep. The secondary, you get really young players that probably need to learn the scheme a little bit better, but I think you got something here with the defense can carry us.
I find myself going back and forth on the idea because I see a lot of the good. I do. You know, they only allowed 12 points, 1 touchdown drive, and really wasn't even a drive. It was a busted coverage, 1 play, big play, and they're gone. I think the thing that concerns me is you're going to see much better offenses starting this week against Tulane.
That's
and
fair.
Will they be able to hold them in check for 4 quarters? If Oklahoma's offense, say, can't get to 20 points, can Oklahoma's defense be so good that Oklahoma's going to have a chance to win the game? That's the part where I really, really struggle because, and I know I'm probably not alone here where there's a lot of fans that are looking ahead to that September 21 date with Tennessee and seeing what the Vols and Nico Iamaleava are doing. And you're concerned. And I mean, I think you have every right to be, and you have every right to be concerned about this week against Tulane, wondering if the offense can keep pace with a really good offense. And I think we're going to see a really good offense this week against Tulane. I think the defense is good enough to keep it close against Tulane if the offense can actually muster some things. If the offense can get going, then it'll be fine. But even if the offense is sluggish like it was last week, I think the defense is good enough to keep Tulane in check. But after that, that's where I have a lot of concerns.
Yeah, when you start going up against the high-powered offense of a Josh Heupel, a Lane Kiffin, even a Steve Sarkisian, a Shane Beamer, that's when you start to get to the, what are we going to do? Because if anything, your goal is to get your defense off the field as fast as possible. And then the offense is supposed to keep themselves on the field as long as possible. So said defense doesn't have to do so much work, right? Even with these high-powered offenses, right? Tennessee, they even got to the point where they were slowing down and just running the ball. They run the ball a lot. When Alabama was really doing it with the offense, they would just run the ball and go slow. LSU in their heyday in 2019, once they started to get a big league, they just started to slow things down and run the ball, get meticulous, and just take their time. That's not something that we are used to as Sooner fans. Again, we're also not used to the defense winning the games for us. We're so accustomed to the offense doing all the work and just saying, okay, the defense has a pulse, we'll be fine. No, at this point, the defense is the heartbeat and your offense just needs to have a pulse. Yeah. And I think that we'll get there, right? Once we start getting the experienced players back, especially the wide receivers that can erase the mistakes that typical young quarterbacks do, because they'll be able to run the routes. They'll be able to find ways to get open. That's the thing that you see different here. It's funny, Andy Murray over at Snaps did a video, and he broke down Jackson Arnold's play. It was a really good breakdown because he pointed out how portions were Jackson, but other portions were not only blocking scheme, but the wide receivers not adjusting themselves to what the defense was giving them. So I'm with you on the concerns when we get to high power guys, but to me, I think this defense, as veteran as it is ready for that challenge.
And I think I'd probably feel better about the defense's ability to kind of run the show and be the heart and soul of this team and carry this team to wins if we had a running game that was actually feasible.
True.
And I think that's probably why I don't have as much confidence in this team being an Iowa Hawkeyes type defensive football team that can just keep low scores, run the football really, really well, and win, 13-7 games because you don't have an offense that's doing anything well consistently right now, at least after game 2. Now, if they go up against Tulane, who just allowed over 200 yards rushing to Kansas State, and they're able to start getting some things going, getting on track a little bit, then maybe I'll feel a little bit better about where they're headed. But the offense is going to have to come together. I know this is a defensive segment, but the offense is going to have to come together to take a lot of the pressure off the defense. Now, that's a weird place to be because I think the defense doesn't necessarily need them to take the pressure off, but eventually they're going to run up against a team that's going to have their number. And the offense is going to have to do their part to help keep pace in that game. And that's the part where I'm like, I'm not quite there with the defense because, and again, speaking to defensive specifically, I feel like we still have to develop more consistent pass rush. Now, the Donovan Smith thing, I think they got to him a couple times. They did create a little bit of pressure, but he was getting the ball out really, really quickly on a number of occasions. So that really negates your pass rush. But if they can develop a more consistent pass rush, they can get to the quarterback a little bit quicker, they're not having to rely on blitzing schemes to do it, then I'll feel really, really good about where they're headed.
Yeah, I can see that too. And I think with the defense, as far as the blitzing schemes, one of the things they need to do is if they're going to go run, random schemes and get at the quarterback, the defenders need to get their hands up more or at least jump to where you buy more time for where the quarterback can't throw it. They know you see you in the air, they can't throw it, but that allows the defensive lineman of the edges to get there and get those sacks. I think if there's one position that needs to really step up that will probably make everybody more comfortable are the edges.
Yep.
If we get more pressure from the edges faster, right, where they're getting really good bend, getting underneath those tackles and quickly getting to the quarterback and not really doing quote unquote any type of gimmicky stuff, if they can do that, get around and really cause pressure, make the pocket collapse quicker, then I think that that's going to be where all of us will be more bought in on the defense really owning things. Because that's what Tennessee did against North Carolina State. I don't like talking about the Vols like that, but that's what they did. Those edges, not only just James Pierce and him and the tackles, the entire defensive line was getting so much pressure on North Carolina State that they had to dump the ball quickly. And by forcing them to dump the ball quickly, they either was very bad passes at somebody's knees, thrown out of bounds, or they were sacked. So they did a really good job of getting hits on Grayson McCall, who we all know was a really good quarterback at Coastal Carolina. He couldn't cook at all in that game. And that, to me, is what we need to see against Tulane, because if we make Mensa's a loose cannon, right? And we'll dive more into Tulane probably on the next show. But he's a loose cannon. So if we get out there and we make him make the mistakes that he is susceptible to doing, we had a really good chance in that game.
Yeah, I think we've got a defense that's capable of doing a lot of really, really good things this year. They're just going to need a little bit of help on the other side of the ball. Will we get it? The offensive line, we don't really have a whole lot of clarity moving forward, but what's it going to look like against Tulane this week? We'll kind of take our stab at projecting this week's starting offensive line. Coming up next here on Locked On Sooners. Hey, Locked On Sooners fans. I want to take a moment to give you a heads up on a brand new mobile game that I think you're going to love as much as I do. It's Ultimate College Football HC. In this amazing game and simulation, you get to step into the shoes of a head coach and lead your college football program to glory. Can you imagine actually being the head coach of the Oklahoma Sooners? From recruiting players and hiring coaches to overseeing training camps and handling school scholarships, you control every crucial detail of your program. It's all in your hands. Will you be able to handle the pressure? And here's what I really love about the game. You are responsible for calling offensive plays during the games. Your strategy will not only determine the success of your football season, but will shape the future and legacy of your program. Ultimate College Football HC is completely free, has no ads, and is 100% playable offline. You can play on the go as you want and when you want to. And of course, we have a special offer for our Locked On Sooners fans. Use the promo code Locked On CFB, all caps, inside the game store to receive a free boost to your program. Make sure to take advantage of this perk, as it will get your team off to a strong start. To download the game, just visit ultimate-cfb.com, ultimate-cfb.com, or look it up on the app stores. Ultimate College Football HC, begin your coaching legacy today. Today's episode is also brought to you by the folks over at Game Time. If you're looking for the best last-minute deals and the lowest prices, go check out Game Time right now. Looking at Tulane from as low as $52 inside Memorial Stadium, Tennessee $228, South Carolina $61 over at the Game Time app. You know we love what we're looking at when we get a chance to see from our seat what our view is going to be inside the stadium. Game Time also has a new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets easier for your favorite live events. It filters out all the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. Our users right now can use promo code Locked On College to get $20 off your first purchase. Again, download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code Locked On College for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply, but create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What is it? What time is it? Game time.
Game time.
All right, Brent Venables had his weekly press conference on Tuesday and indicated that he doesn't really know if and when Branson Hickman's going to be available. We know that Jake Taylor was injured again against Houston. And I think that's it, right? Those are the two main ones. I mean, we know
Gary Hatchett's gone.
Gary
we
Hatchett's
talked about him
out for the
yesterday.
season. We talked about that yesterday. So, Jay, take your stab at guessing what this offensive line can be for this week.
So with the shuffling, you lose Jake Taylor. They put Logan Howland out there at the right tackle. He did decent, right? You could see the inexperience, but he had some good moments in making sure that the pocket in some capacities. Got to get better at the run blocking though. But to me, I think what makes the most sense is you go ahead and slide Sexton to the left tackle, move Tarkin to the right, run it that way. Weiwu at your right guard. Center, go ahead and ride with Bates since you don't know if Hickman's going to play. I'm hearing rumblings that Troy Everett is getting closer and closer. So with Hickman and Everett both getting close, we'll see who decides to play. But give me some of the young guys. Give me Hugh Zeta. Give me Eddie Pierre-Louis at the left guard. And just say go. Go ball. Go be a gamer and make it happen. I think that an EPL on the offensive line or even a Heath, I think at some point they're going to get that energy where they're going to get nasty and they're going to really start make something happen.
Here's what I think they're going to do. I think they're going to go with Logan Howland at left tackle, Sexton staying at left guard to be able to help out Josh Bates with the calls, with the signals, with the communication schemes, with Fabichi Weiwu there at right guard, and then with Michael Tarkin at right tackle. I think they're going to try to do whatever they can to help support Josh Bates in the middle and make sure that the middle of their offensive line is solidified. You don't want that quick pressure coming up the middle on Jackson Arnold. And hopefully another game, having an opportunity to spend a week, learning, having a better understanding of the calls, having a better understanding what his responsibilities are, having better communication with Sexton and Weiwu. Maybe the product could look better, with just more experience playing together. With Michael Tarkin, dude, I wish I would not have underrated that addition back in the spring because, I think the expectation was Taylor at right tackle, Sexton at left tackle. Okay, Tarkin, I guess you're going to be the swing tackle. But when he got here, he told everybody, no, I'm coming here to play tackle. And a lot of us kind of didn't believe him. But here we are.
Here
And
he
now
is.
he's become arguably your most valuable piece on the offensive line because of his ability to switch back and forth between both tackle positions. So, and I think what that does by, putting Tarkin over at right, letting Howland play on that left side, is you kind of balance your talent a little bit, where you have Sexton, Howland, some really, really athletic and strong dudes. But then you have a good experience on the right side with Tarkin and with Wee Woo. And I think it creates a little bit interesting balance there. And if anything, maybe you get more production running on the right side because you've got more experience on the right side.
Yeah, I agree with you there. You want to strengthen up the position. Honestly, you want to strengthen up, to me, you want to strengthen that left side a lot more. You want to make sure that his blind side where he feels more comfortable. But at the same time, having a super strong right side will probably make him not want to bail on the pocket as quickly because he sees it coming.
Right.
He's going to probably try to feel it on the left, but in the right, if he can see it, he's probably going to have to try to bail. And to me, it'd be a good idea to make sure that right side stays so secure to where he feels a lot more comfortable and he can stick around. Because as you get deeper into this schedule, when you start seeing those, South Carolinas, those Tennessees, things ain't going to be, all hunky-dory with those edges coming at you. You got to make sure that even though he sees the pressure coming, he's got to be comfortable with it behind him. But I think that in time, once he gets those wide receivers, I think he'll feel better. But I want to see more EPL as well as Ozeta, right? I think that with EPL, I think he could be our Caden Green this year, right? We know that he's really good. BV mentioned that he wished he could have came in January, but we know why he couldn't. He went to Tampa Catholic.
That track.
You can't graduate early there. That's just kind of how the school works.
Gotcha.
So he couldn't come out early as he wanted, but as soon as he got here in the summer, you started to hear about him being a force. You heard about him being forceful in the fall, and it's like, okay, what he needs now is just more snaps. Gets more snaps, we think that he'll be able to do something. And so at this point, just go ahead and throw him out there. I don't think it's going to hurt us. Tulane has a better defensive line than we've seen in the last 2 games. But you put a dude out there like EPL, who we know is going to want to try to run through somebody's face, I think that's all right. If you have concerns about the toughness of other guys, put the freshman in. He's going to run through somebody's face. I'm here for that.
Yeah, he's probably eager to hit somebody, been on campus just for a few months. Mm-hmm. So I think part of it also comes back to, okay, where have guys been playing? Where have your young guys been playing? If, Logan Howland's been playing left tackle in practice, you probably don't want to be trying to switch him over to the right side, 1 week ahead of a game. And same with like Heath Ozida and, Eddie Pierre-Louis. If they've been playing that left guard spot, that's probably where you want to kind of keep working them. And so they're going to probably look for what's the best floor for their offensive line. And I think this kind of makes the most sense if you don't have Hickman back, if you don't have, another offensive tackle option, and you don't feel good about your guard option and you want to keep Sexton there, then, okay, looks like I think it could very well be Howland. Wide receiver, man, that's another area of concern for the Oklahoma Sooners because Brent Venables was not super specific on Nick Anderson's timeline as well. And we'll discuss that coming up next year on Locked On Sooners.
You've heard us talk a lot about FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. Well, they've got something a little different for you. Now through September 22nd, all FanDuel customers that bet $5, and that's it, number 5, you get 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Then with the YouTube TV base plan, you'll be able to watch every regular season Sunday afternoon out-of-market game. All you have to do is have a Google account and a current form of payment. You can cancel anytime. I love YouTube TV. And leveraging that with FanDuel, especially because they've got all the spreads and stuff from the NFL. Man, it's a good time. And college. So you can jump in and see if you can get Oklahoma minus 13.5 since that's what it's sitting at right now. So just visit FanDuel.com and download America's #1 sports book.
So the Oklahoma Sooners have had wide receiver problems all summer and to the start of the season, all along. All for months, for 2 months now, it seems like they've had wide receiver problems. So right now we're rolling with Deion Burks in the slot, Brendan Thompson on one side of the field, and then mystery tag team partner on the other side of the field. And Brent Venables was asked about Nick Anderson and basically said, hey, I don't know really what to tell you. we're getting close, but I don't have a definitive timeline. Basically, that's kind of what he said. So I don't feel 100% comfortable saying Nick Anderson's going to be back this week even. I hope he's back. They could really use him, but I don't know if he's going to be back. And so here we are yet again, going into another game, not feeling comfortable with the wide receiver options outside of Deion Burks. And listen, Brendan Thompson, I think he's getting better each week. He was a little bit better this week than he was last week, but there's a lot of work to do. There's more chemistry to develop, but we need our 798-yard, 10 touchdown, averaging 23 yards per reception, Nick Anderson back.
Oh no, I agree. The big thing is that Deion Burks has been the main guy, and as I've talked about before, teams know that. Yep. So they're keying in on him, right? They're bracketing the heck out of him, and they're making sure that he's not able to do it. And so without Nick Anderson, if we could get either him or Andrel Anthony, I think things start to open up more for what Jackson Arnold's trying to figure out and do, right? It's really hard when the guys you worked out with in camp, both camps, and all you got is one of them out of the four that you thought you were going to be able to go around with, right? Now, I know that he had built some chemistry with J.J. Hester. The trust may not be there as much because of the drop passes in the first game, but at this point, put him back in and throw him the ball. Just say, look, man, I'm going to throw you the ball. You need to catch it. And just jump on him like that. And I think you'll get it, right? Just, dude, you're a 4-4 guy. I can go deep to you at some point. Just catch the ball across the middle. Use your body. Secure that thing. Fall down if you need to. Find ways to get, and I think that's where Jackson's going to have to show his leadership is finding ways to get these guys the ball in more secure spots. Like, you don't have to always go for yak. If you throw it to them and they slide to the ground and catch it and get like 6 yards, you're winning, right? Especially if the defense is trying to press up. We all know that Tulane's secondary is pretty questionable. Kansas State was out there cooking them. We have a good chance of trying to do something big against them. And you don't have to be gimmicky at all. You just need to go out there and just physically outdo them. And having Nick would be amazing for the confidence boosts. But honestly, I would rather have Andrel Anthony right now.
So with Andrel Anthony, I'm not sure how soon we're going to get him back to 100%. You know, I mean, they say he's 100%. They say he's good to go, but he's still trying to work through the confidence that knee's going to be good. You know, that's why that year timeline generally exists, is because not only is it the healing from the surgery and the recovery and the physical therapy and all of that, it's developing the mental capacity to trust that the knee's going to be okay and it's not going to go out on you again. So hopefully he can get there quick, because they're going to need him at some point, and hopefully sooner rather than later. But I'm not going to put a whole lot of faith in him being ready to go until we see him out on the field and he looks like the Andrel Anthony that was leading the Sooners in receiving last year. You know, the guy that was getting open down the field, the guy that was winning on the slant. I mean, he was winning in a number of areas of the passing game, not just as the deep ball guy, but he was just winning in a lot of ways. And that's what made him so effective. He looked like a true number one wide receiver that could win in every area of the route tree. So get him back, 100% get him back. But I'm ready to get the guy back that was doing that kind of stuff last year, was showing the awareness and the capacity to come back for an underthrown Dylan Gabriel deep ball, that kind of stuff. Like, he's not, you know, he has the football IQ as well as the physical ability to go be a big time difference maker for Jackson Arnold. And that would do wonders for the passing game to have somebody of Anthony's football IQ in addition to his ability, just because you know that, hey, if this is supposed to be a 3-yard slant, Anthony's going to run it 3 yards in slant. If this is supposed to be a 20-yard post, it's going to be 20 yards post into the second hash. He's not going to round it off. He's going to run it exactly how it needs to be run and then go get the football. So I want that dude back. I just need him back 100%.
Yeah, and that was the thing that Andy Murray pointed out too about the other wide receivers as well, was it was certain routes they were running is based upon the way what the defense was giving them. It was like, look, if you would have gone out more to this side, he would have drawn that safety in, and this pocket in the middle would have been wide open. And so he kind of broke up and pointed that out, and that's where you could see the inexperience at wide receiver, more so with BT as well as You know, you had JJ was a little bit inexperienced. Zion Raging, you could tell that he was inexperienced. Those outside guys, you can tell that they didn't have the experience to think, oh, if I go this way, I'm going to pull that guy here. If I go here, they're going to give me this look. That was some of the stuff that he was pointing out. And that's kind of why I'm like, I want Andrel Anthony back, because you get him in, like you said, he is really good at route running. He's also good at masking his routes. You put him out there with Burks, they'll be able to really confuse some of those secondary players. And Jackson Arnold will have quicker options in where he can go to. You can hit the guy underneath. You can hit one on the corner route because they're following the wide receiver going across the middle, thinking that they're going to go short. You need guys to be able to leverage that football IQ of understanding proper spacing, running those routes properly, hitting their curl when they need to, knowing the ball's coming to them. That's some of the components that we're kind of missing out there. And that's no shade to the wide receivers. A lot of that stuff is really from experience, right? It's something that you get from watching and playing a whole bunch of football. They're now at the collegiate level. It's going to take some time to get to that point of breakdown, which I know Emmett Jones is probably teaching them a lot of it. But for them to act on it on their own, it's going to take some time for them to get to the confidence that it's okay to do this, because they see that, okay, if I run this route this way and pull it, that's where, like I said, Andrel Anthony to me would be probably the biggest addition right now. He'll do that. Nick, of course, gives you the jump ball ability on top of the ability to run routes. But you having Andrel just run those, that's where Jalil Farouk was really big, because he could hit those routes and draw in the defenders. We saw Deion Burks do it, and I'm going to keep referring to that cross route because Adam Murray showed that point, the exact same one. He's like, this was amazing. The pocket was just enough time. When Burks was yanking both those dudes on that bracket defense, as they were both watching them, BT did the perfect route, and Jackson put it right at the spot it needed to be, where he was the only one that could catch it. And he hauled it in. We need more of that, John. We need guys that can do that every single time they get on the field. Not just sometimes, but every time.
Yeah, because sometimes your responsibility in the route concept is to create space for other people
exactly
in the route concept. Whether it's a dagger, whether it's an over route or a corner post combo, a scissors combination, whatever it is. And yeah, having that experience in Andrel Anthony would help a lot. So here's hoping that one or both of these guys can be available this week against Tulane, because I think it'd go a long way to helping the Oklahoma Sooners offense against the Green Wave. That's going to do it for today's episode of Locked On Sooners. Thanks so much for tuning in, being a part of the show. Subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcasts. We're free and available on all podcast platforms and on YouTube. Go follow Jay at Unfair Sports, myself at John 9 Williams. The show is at Locked On Sooners on all the social media platforms. Go check it out. Again, subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. And again, shout out to all the everydayers out there as well. For your second listen, go check out Locked On College Football Podcast. From NIL deals to never-ending conference realignment rumors, Spencer McLaughlin gets you ready for an exciting season on the gridiron. You can find the link to the Locked On College Football Podcast in the description, so you don't need to search. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. But for Jay Smith, I'm John Williams. Be sure to be around for the SEC Roundtable that's going to be coming up later this week in your feeds as well. But until then, Boomer
Sooner.